There's a lot we don't know about the ocean. We haven't even discovered all the marine species within it. Therefore, it's not out of the question for some strange discoveries to be made in recent years. From Cleopatra's long-lost palace to an ancient computer, here are 15 of the most unbelievable things found in the ocean. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos every day. That being said, let's begin. Number 15. Stonehenge in Lake Michigan. Okay, you got us. Lake Michigan isn't an ocean, but there's certainly no denying that what was found in it was unbelievable. Therefore, hold your judgment until after, because we're pretty sure you're gonna like this one. Professor Mark Holley, an underwater archaeology expert from Northwestern Michigan College, was one of a team of archaeologists that had been hired to examine boat wrecks near Traverse City in Michigan with a sonar device. They found plenty of sunken cars, boats, and a Civil War era pier, but what they didn't expect to find was Stonehenge. In 2007, Professor Holley said they discovered stones arranged in a circle around 40 feet under the ocean's surface. While the rocks were unique enough, it was the carvings on them that were the real intriguing part. One appeared to have what looked like a mastodon on it, which is an elephant-like mammal that's been extinct for at least 10,000 years. Finding such a rock formation is not as uncommon as you might think in the area, however. Petroglyph sites and stone circles are reasonably popular in the general region, but are not as often found in Lake Michigan. What's more, none look remotely like the Stonehenge. Once verified, the stone formation would join a long list of ancient structures under the water, including over 100 cities in the Mediterranean Sea and many hundreds more under the ocean. There's one more question we have to ask. Where on earth did all that water come from? Now it's time for the star topic. Sea creatures come in all shapes and sizes. Even the species we've discovered so far vastly differ from each other. But this picture might just prove that even within individual species, related animals can be different too. We were sent this photo as one of the most unbelievable things found in the ocean. A Californian woman had been on a whale watching excursion when she saw not only a killer whale, but a white whale as well. Was it albino? Could it have been a new species? Comment down below with the hashtag star topic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 14. Blackbeard's Cannons. Blackbeard has been a romanticized figure in history for decades, and there are tens of thousands of artifacts relating to his watery escapades in museums to allow people to get their history fix. Even though many artifacts already sit in museums and have done so for several years, there are still new additions arriving all the time. The latest are cannons from Blackbeard's sunken ship, Queen Anne's Revenge. For those of you who don't know, Blackbeard's real name is Edward Teach, and he's not the lovable ocean scallywag we've heard a lot about. Instead, he was a ruffian from Britain who terrorized seafarers from the Atlantic who hailed from American colonies, the Caribbean, and beyond. His ship was grounded in June 1718, and he left hundreds of his crew marooned while he took off with the booty. The remains of the boat are 2 miles off the North Carolina coast, and Blackbeard was killed in a battle half a year after his ship was grounded. The latest cannons to be uplifted weigh up to 3,000 pounds and were pulled from the Beaufort Inlet 300 years after the boat's sinking. 40 guns had already been removed before, and 20 cannons in total. Number 13. Ancient supercontinent. It's hard to believe that we were once a big happy world not split apart by seas or oceans. But believe it or not, the continents and countries we know and love today were once a part of a supercontinent called Gondwanaland. Gondwanaland was a fully assembled supercontinent consisting of South America, India, Australia, Antarctica, Madagascar, and Arabia. It started breaking up during the early Jurassic period around 180 million years ago. If you're wondering how this relates to the most unbelievable things found in the ocean, well, it does. Researchers even today are finding huge rocks they call microcontinents in the Indian Ocean, which are thought to be the remains of this massive continent. How do you know they aren't just ordinary sea rocks, you ask? Well, rocks in the sea ordinarily feature basalt, but rocks on land do not. They often have gneiss, sandstone, and granite instead. Testing of the continent rocks shows they once were on the surface of the Earth, not underneath the water. It wasn't until 1620 that people started to realize the coastlines may have all been linked at a time. Francis Bacon noted the similar shapes of coastlines along eastern South America to those of Western Africa. German meteorologist Alfred Wegener envisioned the giant landmass in 1912, believing it covered the southern half of the world. Number 12. City of Pavlo-Petri. A city showing the early days of Mediterranean sea trade around 6,000 years ago off the coast of Laconia, Greece, is possibly one of the most unbelievable things to be found in the ocean. In 1967, marine geoarchaeologist Dr. Fleming found the 500 square meter town well preserved in a remote location. Thanks to the discovery of Neolithic pottery within it, researchers were able to identify it as a port city dating back thousands of years. It sits around 13 feet underwater in the southern Greece region of Peloponnesus and is the oldest known submerged town or city in the world. But it's not just a few bits of pottery here and there, it is a fully fledged city. There are roads, two-story homes with gardens, a water management system with pipes and channels, temples, a cemetery, and a town square. Some of the more substantial buildings even have up to 12 rooms. Research shows the city was inhabited before 2800 BC and was sunk around 1000 BC due to earthquakes. Even all these years later, however, the layout and structure of the town are clearly visible. Number 11. The Yonaguni Monument. Not only is the Yonaguni Monument one of the most perplexing historical structures, but it's also one of the most unbelievable things to be found in the ocean. After all, how often do you go looking for sharks only to see one of the most famous monuments in history instead? Well, as it turns out, at least once. A group of divers diving off the coast of the Ryukyu Islands observing hammerhead sharks discovered a unique rock formation in 1987. Ever since then, it has sparked heated debate over whether it's a human-made structure or another one of the ocean's weird and wonderful creations. It's around 16 to 131 feet below the ocean's surface and has giant platforms, carved steps, and massive stone pillars. There's also a uniquely shaped triangle section that goes by the name of the Turtle due to its unique makeup. One of the larger platform areas also has straight walls. The area in which the monument is positioned is quite dangerous due to its currents, but that doesn't stop divers from visiting in the droves. Everyone wants to see the Yonaguni Monument for themselves. While research is ongoing, two things still aren't clear: what it's for and how it came to exist. As it's one large piece of rock, not everyone is convinced that human hands could have created it, but many think the straight lines and 90-degree angles are too perfect for it to be a product of ocean erosion. One section even looks like it has a crude carving of the human face. The Yonaguni Monument remains a mystery to this day. Number 10. Cleopatra's Kingdom. Queen Cleopatra, or Cleopatra Philopator, was the last queen of Egypt and the final ruler of the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty. She ruled Egypt from 51 BC to 30 BC and then died tragically by suicide. But during her life, she lived in a beautiful palace in Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. The palace was spectacular, with pillars, statues, and grandeur from top to toe. As palaces represented a ruler's power, no one would have expected anything less. But it was missing, and it took until the 1990s for people to have an idea of where it ended up. French archaeologist Frank Gaudio was reading through ancient writings of Greek historian Strabo when he noted that Strabo had described an island near Alexandria called Antirrhodos, which was home to Queen Cleopatra's palace. Frank's journey to find the palace began. It took a decade for him to form a team and explore the lost and sunken island. Once they ended up in the general area, it didn't take long for them to find clues that it existed. First, they found a cargo ship with rings, glass cups, jewelry, and hairpins. And then they found an ancient dock with Egyptian red granite columns and a grand entrance with old paintings. He had finally found Cleopatra's palace. The best was yet to come. It had artifacts, coins, marble flooring, statues and columns, and intricate pottery, vases, and more. In total, over 20,000 ancient artifacts were found at the site of the palace. But how does a grand palace end up under the water? Easy. Around 1400 years ago, there was an earthquake and tsunami off Alexandria's coast. The island of Anti-Rhodos sunk, and with it, the palace, a lighthouse, and a harbor. Number 9. Ancient Phoenician Vessel. People find shipwrecks all the time. They are reasonably common, and for the most part, no one blinks an eye. But the discovery of an ancient Phoenician vessel is an entirely different story. This ship, around 400 feet below the Mediterranean Sea's surface, takes shipwreck discovery to a whole new level. Researchers found the 50-foot vessel around 1 mile from Gozo Island's coast near Malta. It is the second largest island in the Maltese archipelago. Cargo from the boat was strewn over 700 square feet and included things like grinding stones and jugs. Due to the sandy seabed, the majority of the artifacts were preserved enough for researchers to know they were from 700 BC. Further research also found that the Phoenician ship had been in Malta to sell cargo. It was also sailing between Malta and Sicily when it struck trouble. According to Timothy Gambin, a researcher from the University of Malta, the find was unique. He said that the state of preservation was brilliant given the ship's age, and it outlines a critical reference point for trading in ancient times. They were even able to build a 3D model of the site based on thousands of photos taken of the wreckage. Once they finish site research and gather all the relics, the location of the shipwreck will be released. Number 8. 2,000-year-old computer. It's probably a lot more common than you might think to find a computer while diving, such as our worldwide waste problem that you might even find an old fridge or washing machine or two as well. But to find a 2,000-year-old computer is probably a little less common, which is why it's one of the most unbelievable things found in the ocean to date. It was also found purely by accident. A boat of Greek divers found themselves in the middle of a storm near Antikythera, a small island. They docked, decided to wait the storm out, and then set about diving where they were to see what they could find. One diver rushed back to the surface in a mad panic, believing he had found a shipwreck with decomposing bodies. Captain Dimitros Kontos went down for a look and saw the scattered limbs as well. Unlike the first diver though, he realized they were statues, not humans. It appears the divers had stumbled across a shipwreck from 85 BC, 2,000 years ago. On board were vases, statues, coins, and many more ancient treasures. But even more exciting was the unique device they called the Antikythera mechanism, or history's first computer. It was a bronze and wood contraption that had cracked open in 1902 to reveal 82 pieces and 30 interlocking gear wheels. Not only was it remarkable for the era in which it was found, but the period it came from as well. Technology like it would not be seen for another 1,000 years. Such was its advancement that people even questioned whether aliens had put it together. Even though it was called the world's first computer, it was an astronomy tool. It had 2 dials to display the days of the year and the positioning of the planets, sun, and moon. Researchers are still unsure how they came to know of this technology, or even why it took so long to be seen again. Number 7. Monument under the Sea of Galilee. Israeli archaeologists carrying out a seabed survey in the Sea of Galilee in 2003 found more than they were expecting when they stumbled across a giant ancient structure. It appeared as a blip on the sonar, and when they got down to it, they found it was purposefully built stone structures of monumental proportions. It is thought to have been built on dry land around 6,000 years ago and stands at 39 feet tall. It's also around 230 feet wide and weighs approximately 60,000 tons. Comparing this to other structures we know, it's about 6 times as heavy as the Eiffel Tower and double the size of Stonehenge. Researchers don't know what it was used for, but say that structures similar to it with rocks piled high on top of each other were used to mark burial grounds. Number 6. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? You know what? We actually don't know, and neither do top researchers. In 2012, oceanographers discovered a strange 200-foot object with a staircase, a dark hole, and an apparent non-nature-made structure. Given how electric equipment cuts out around it, it's also thought to be metal rather than rock or other natural materials. Many would say it looks like the Millennium Falcon, but no one knows for sure. However, this strange structure, 300 feet below the surface of the Baltic Sea, is thought to be around 140,000 years old. It first came to the attention of Peter Lindbergh, a Swedish explorer, and his Ocean X Marine Explorers team when they were looking for a shipwreck. They described it as around 82 feet tall with a canyon and loose rocks. There are also 2 trails leading to it, a circle, and strange skid marks, almost as if it had crash-landed. It's not a wreck, but it doesn't appear human-made. Could it be alien? Number 5. Train Graveyard. When Paul Hepler was mapping the ocean floor with a magnetometer in 1985, the last thing he expected to find was a train. But as it turns out, he'd found 2. And under 90 feet of water. At first, poor visibility from dirty water made viewing the trains challenging, and he only knew that he had found 2 metal objects. But it didn't take long for him to discover that he'd found the 2 trains that had been lost back in the 1850s. The trains were Planet Class 222T models, which were rare, and they weighed around 15 tons. But the rareness wasn't what shocked people the most, it was how the 2 trains came to be 90 feet underwater. There were no records that they even existed, and no one had any solid foundation from which to work. When a storm off the coast of Long Branch, New Jersey saw the barge strike trouble, they may have been pushed off deliberately, or they could have fallen off. However they came there, it's an exciting find nonetheless. Number 4. Bimini Road. Bimini Road is one of the most interesting things found in the ocean, but it's still up for debate whether it means anything significant. Greek legend dictates that around 11,000 years ago, the city of Atlantis sunk in a day. Since that time, all manner of researchers, treasure hunters, and scientists have tried to find it. One diver thought he had when he stumbled across an 18-foot deep stone formation in 1968 near North Bimini Island. The stones were evenly spread out in a line and stretched for around half a mile, almost as if to form a road. The media went crazy, and people began to wonder if it signaled the discovery of Atlantis at last. However, upon carbon dating the blocks, researchers concluded that the roads were formed naturally. No tool marks were found, nor was there any evidence to suggest they had been placed to create a structure. Still, it was a pretty exciting find at the time. Number 3. Ghost Fleet of Truk Lagoon. Most people have heard of Pearl Harbor and the watery ship tombs beneath the water's surface. But how many have heard of the Ghost Fleet of Truk Lagoon? Sadly, not as many. In 1944, Allied bombers descended upon the beaches of Caroline Island in the South Pacific with devastating results for the Japanese. The island was playing host to the Imperial Fleet of Japan. Given its shelter and low coral reefs, it was the perfect spot for the job. In February 1944, a mixture of support ships, hundreds of aircraft, fleet carriers, and light carriers launched a surprise attack, resulting in over 250 Japanese aircraft losses and more than 50 sunken ships. Thousands of Japanese soldiers lost their lives, most of which were trapped in the cargo holds of boats. In the years that followed, Truk Lagoon became a diver's paradise, with many treasures and ruins to explore. Unfortunately, those sunken ships were still full of bodies. It wasn't until Lagoon of Lost Ships, a 1969 film by Jacques Cousteau, came to light that the Japanese government began a recovery mission. Still, some bodies and wrecks remain today. Number 2. 48 tons of silver. It was a significant payday for the British government when an American company recovered around 48 tons of precious metals from a shipwreck, 20% of which would stay with the British. Odyssey Marine Exploration Inc. from Tampa, Florida recovered tens of tons of silver bullion from a sunken British cargo ship, SS Gersapa, off Ireland's coast. It had been torpedoed during World War II by a German U-boat. Between that boat and other shipwrecks in British waters, the company hopes to recover over 240 tons of silver worth in the tens of millions of dollars. The ship is around 3 miles under the water in the North Atlantic, which made the recovery of nearly 1,500 silver bars difficult. However, it would all be recovered, refined, and monetized. As the British government looks to bolster its income, there may be more instances in the near future of discovered shipwrecks with significant payload. Number 1. Sunken Pyramid. In 2013, amateur sailor Diocletian Silva was fishing in the Atlantic between Terceira and São Miguel. His radar picked up a unique signal which revealed a strange pyramid structure around 40 feet below the water's surface. After alerting researchers, it was determined that the pyramid had been underwater for around 20,000 years, at around the same time as the last ice age. It's nearly 200 feet tall with an 86,111 square foot base. It's also reasonably perfectly shaped for a pyramid, even if many people speculate about whether it's human-made or nature-made. Portugal kept the location of the pyramid a secret at first and had Portuguese Navy patrols monitor the area to retain its structural integrity. In the meantime, researchers were wondering whether the nearby Pico Islands, which used to house an ancient civilization, could have been responsible for the sunken pyramid of the deep. Isn't it crazy that so many astounding ancient artifacts can be hiding just beneath the ocean surface? Can you remember anything crazy you found in water or at the beach? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time!